Welcome in everyone to the Larsonland podcast. I'm your host, Sawyer Hill, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Dylan Bradshaw. We come in here every single week and talk about all things involving the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series champion, Young Money Kyle Larson. Lots to cover on today's show, Dylan. We were down there at the Daytona 500 this past weekend. First and foremost, huge shout out to Blaine Anderson, big friend of the show. He came on here he was a guest on our podcast at the end of last season. We'll leave the link in the description of this video to check that one out. But Blaine was a huge help getting us down there to Daytona this past weekend and being able to see stuff up close. Just a really cool experience and looking forward to maybe doing some stuff like that in the future again.
Yeah, it was an awesome time. It was really cool to see everything, behind the scenes. We were pretty much behind the pit box the entire time. So all the pit stops, we got to see the guys do what they do. And it's just crazy to see. We don't really see too much coverage on the pickers. And that's a big reason why we thought the podcast with him was cool, kind of providing some insight on everything they do. And, they have to be perfect at all points of the pit stop. And it just has to be executed perfectly and flawlessly. So, really cool to see that perspective, and it was a great time. It came so close at the end, dude. It was so stressful, but Kyle ran very good, way better than I was expecting. So I mean, maybe he's just been studying up, trying to get better on the super speedways. But dude, that I really wanted that one. I wanted to be in victory lane last night so bad.
Yeah, man. I mean, we were both standing there. I was standing there, tablet in hand. I was doing the posting. Our friend of the show, Austin, he was helping us make some of the stuff up while we were at the track, but I was still posting it there. I was kind of standing there, ready to pull like a win like pull the trigger on it. Just, I mean, dude, super stressful situation. We were standing there, like you said, the entire time behind the pit box, watching on the screen. There were like next to the team, and for the majority of the race, we were the only people kind of standing there behind it. But as the laps went down and as Kyle was really became in contention to win the race, the crowd behind us started to grow bigger and bigger, and it seemed like every time the smallest little thing would happen, you would hear the cheers, you would hear the gasps from all the crew members and just the people around in the pit area. It was really a interesting way to experience a race.
Yeah, the atmosphere is like no other. I went last year at fan zone, but I mean, just the access that we had behind the pit box, being it's like you're on the team pretty much. I mean, you're literally right there seeing everything. So it's a whole new experience. It's really cool. Really glad we could go. I went to the duels Thursday. On location video is on the channel if you want to see that. We stopped by Saturday for the ARCA race, but we ended up going to Volusia instead of the Xfinity race. A nice end of that. I mean, that was a cool ending there in the Xfinity race. But yeah, Sunday headed out early. It was a hot one when we went in. I mean, as I don't know if you guys can see, we got sunburnt pretty bad. But yeah, I mean, it was a great time, man. It really loved it. Hope to go to some more tracks soon. The next on my list is probably Darlington, maybe. That's like the next closest track to me here in Florida. So we'll see on that one.
Yeah, I mean, probably one of the only times this year, one of the few times this year we'll both be together at a race was definitely a good time to see a race go down together. I know we went to a few last year and really exciting stuff there. But man, I mean, this race, like I was kind of as we sat there and watched it. Like with I think it was around 50 laps to go. I was standing there thinking to myself, I was like, man, this has really kind of been a really tame Daytona 500. We haven't seen a lot of incidents take place yet. It's kind of just went smooth. There was, I think, maybe a couple of cautions. You had the one for the incident that Chase Elliott was involved in, kind of early in the race, but after that, it was really just kind of smooth. A lot of cars on the track at once, and then right after that thought, it kind of went crazy from that point on in stage three. And I think we kind of expected that to take place. Not really a surprise there, but Kyle was, I mean, at the beginning of the race, really close to the front of the pack, stayed up there, obviously started second and kind of held his ground through the majority of stage one until the last pit stop. And then kind of stayed middle of the pack throughout the majority of the race until stage 3, where kind of a pit cycle and strategy call by Cliff Daniels was able to cycle Larson back out inside the top 5, luckily with a caution flag flying and letting Larson basically take that track position.
Yeah, going back to the wrecks, like you said, there really wasn't too much. The Elliott one, there was that contact triggered between Reddick and Harvick that Larson thankfully avoided. Just slid by, very minimal damage on that one. I thought for sure he was going to get caught up in that. Slid around the
Yeah.
grass a little bit, but other than that, it was that one. I think there was that McDowell one near the end of the race, and then obviously, the last lap caution. But yeah, I mean Larson was really fast, like we saw in the duels. I would say we really didn't see much of Bowman in the duels because he just kind of laid back, but he was probably the fastest car. He probably had the best handling of any car on the track, and he really, transferred that Sunday. He showed it, and he was up front a lot more than I expected because, as we know, super speedways hasn't been his best track on his resume, but you know, great race. I mean, still upset about that one. I mean, it was Almirola. He kind of bumped Pastrana around the corner there when Larson went into the middle. I think he formed in the middle right when they took the white flag, and Stenhouse kind of moved in front of him. Didn't give him like a ton of room there, moving on the inside line. He was caught in the middle, and as we know, if you go to the middle at Daytona, never ends well. You either end up in the wall or you just end up all the way in the back trying to find a spot. So, not much you can do there, but heartbreak city on that one.
Yeah, and I mean, from Larson's perspective, I don't really think there was much else he could have done in that situation he was put in. He had such a big run coming to the white flag there on Stenhouse. Stenhouse was a little bit far ahead, and we know when we see that car that gets 2 or 3 car lengths ahead of the rest, we know what kind of run the rest of the cars are going to get. And Kyle got that big run, and he had a couple options. He either could have plowed into the back of Stenhouse and probably wiped out him or Stenhouse and the rest of the field. He could have moved to the middle like he did and take that risk, which obviously doesn't pay off very often. Or he could have checked up and basically just, that would have pretty much ended his race. Or backed out of the throttle, you know what I mean? He would have not been able to probably make another run within that last lap if he were to back out like that. But I mean, I think Kyle did a great job throughout the race, just managing and staying patient. I do think your point with Alex Bowman in his duel, like dropping to the back and really not getting those reps in the draft, I think that does play some sort of a role into this a little bit because Kyle was up there racing actually in the duel. I know it was very stressful to watch because knowing you have that second place starting spot locked up, but he was up there, you know, learning while Bowman was sitting not even in the draft.
Right. Yeah. And speaking of Bowman, like they're on the overtime last two laps. Immediately, that inside line had absolutely no cars. I mean, it was Larson in front, and then Bell, and then Allmendinger. I think he was like 3 or 4 car lengths behind. The outside line was moving, and then Bush eventually caught up on the outside line, and Bowman, he was just sitting there on the outside line. I think if he made that move to the inside line, they would have got a big push, and Larson, Bell, and Bowman would have made a huge run on the inside line before the wreck took place. So, yeah, it was interesting because Bowman obviously was the fastest qualifying. Larson was, second. It- Bowman was what, like 2/10 faster than Larson's or around there. So it was interesting to see Bowman just completely. I mean, I get it on the pole, but it was weird seeing Larson actually compete in the duels and Bowman didn't. So almost got that duel win at the end. Gilliland, he kind of, I don't know what happened there. He kind of checked up, and Larson, had to check up as well. But yeah, it just so close here at Daytona, but it goes to prove Larson's improving on the super speedway. So um, you know, the Coke 0400 in Daytona. Maybe we'll see something again from Larson. Maybe we'll see him at the Talladega again. We picked up that top 5 last year, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a trend now. Kyle being able to obviously 18th place finish in this race doesn't reflect how good he really was throughout the course of the night or the day, I should say. But yeah, like you said, the top five at Talladega last year, now putting this race underneath him. I think he's got to be feeling a little bit more confident rolling into the next super speedway race, which will be Atlanta in a couple of weeks after the West Coast swing wraps up at Phoenix. Just a couple other things on Daytona. I know there was a lot of complaining about the TV coverage of the race. Dylan, we kind of when we got back from the race last night, we were looking on your computer some videos of all the different times where there was something that happened in the race and just TV did not cover it or they just completely missed it. I mean, this is starting to become a little bit of a trend with Fox and I don't I mean there were complaints about NBC at the end of last year too where it's like are we what are we doing? Like are we trying to catch the action or are we trying to play Burger King commercials or Wendy's commercials? It's I understand they have to have advertisements in in the show in the race, but it just seems like it's too frequent and even just the side by side stuff has become a meme at this point.
Yeah, I mean, people were saying they were just spamming huge commercial runs like every 10 laps or so. And I mean, conveniently, the commercial runs always happen when there's like a wreck or some guys marching. I mean, I remember multiple times last year, Larson was making a run. He was like 17th, and they come back and he's like top three, and I'm like, okay, what happened? And like you got to go back on highlights to watch and see what happened. Like we were even at the track, and everyone was going crazy about this Bowman save. We tried finding it last night.
Yeah.
I don't even think it exists. Like we tried to find it online. Everyone was flipping out saying it was so crazy, and they didn't show it on the TV, even at the track. So I mean, just the coverage, it's just been crazy.
Yeah, I like when that happened, we saw the caution flag flew, and then there was another incident, I guess that was the reason for the caution. But when MRN called it on the radio and like live, they were focused on Bowman and they were talking about the save, and we kept waiting and waiting and waiting. We're trying to see the video of it, and there's no video of it to be found anywhere. So if anybody can find the video of it, please comment, please share the video with us because we'd love to see that. But as far as we know, it's a lost clip and will never be shown again.
Yeah, maybe it probably was interrupted by a Whopper Burger King commercial. It seems to be that's the most convenient commercial when something happens.
Definitely was nice to be at the track and not have like commercials and stuff like
Oh,
that.
definitely, yeah.
That's a huge plus of being at the track. What were you most impressed with this weekend? I mean, for me, obviously, I think we're very impressed with how Kyle performed, but beyond that, just generally speaking.
I mean, just overall, I mean, the access, we talked about it on podcasts before, you go to a dirt track, you just get a pit pass, anyone can be up close and at the car, but it just seems like so limited and hard to get. Once again, thank you to Blaine for helping us out and getting us that. But just seeing everything, being around the guys in the garage, working on the car, just walking down the garage area, walking down pit lane, you got like celebrities just casually walking by you, drivers, you see these guys on TV every Sunday, and it's like kind of shocking at first, like, oh my God, so and so just walked past me. Like, it was crazy. Like at the duels, I met Richard Petty, got a picture with him. So it's just crazy the access and the people that are around you that are so big into the sport. Um, but it was just a great experience. Like I said earlier, seeing the pit crew do their thing up close because you don't really see that. I recorded a few of the pit stops. So um, yeah, just overall really cool to see.
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing was just like my biggest thing I was impressed with was the pit crew and like how laser focused those guys have to be like the entire day because I know for us like standing by the pit box and watching from like that perspective, it's a lot of standing around. It's hot outside, you're waiting a long time, you're kind of just like in a race like that, it's not like boom, 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 action, action, action. It's like they're riding around a little bit for a good portion of that race, and the crew guys have to be ready to like put their gear on and go like within the flip of a switch. They have to be able to flip that switch and put their stuff on and literally be in a mindset of, look, I'm gonna step out onto that pit lane where cars are coming down at I don't know what the pit road speed limit is there at Daytona, but cars going a decent amount of speed trying to all beat each other off the pit lane, and you're stepping out there like in the heat of the moment. It's probably crazy to just do that after standing around for 30 minutes prior.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely in the zone, and when they're not doing pit stops, they're some of the guys are either going around, they're looking at tires, checking tire wear, just checking everything, bringing fuel in, bringing tires. Like they're just very busy. They're just always doing something, and then at the stop of a dime, they just gotta throw the gear on and get ready for a pit stop. Like you said, it's got to be executed, got to be perfect, or the race could be ruined. One bad pit stop, and it's the case for every race. One bad pit stop, and your entire race could just be thrown away, and it's very stressful. And those guys are very good at what they do.
And yeah, they definitely are very good at what they do, and the pit stops were awesome. I mean, this weekend they did a great job. I think, as far as we could tell, I mean, from our perspective, we were pretty close up. It looked like most of the stops were almost flawless. There wasn't really much to pick apart, and it looked like everybody was there wasn't people shaking their heads or mad among the team on the pit crew. It seemed like everybody was pretty happy with how the stops went, and it's always good when the stops are good and Kyle's running good and you're in a position like that to win a race.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's crazy, and um, you know, again, thanks to Blaine for doing everything for us. He's been a huge help, showing the hospitality to us at the track. We talked to him a lot, so we kind of hope to get some more guys on here because interviewing Blaine, it was really cool, but it's not just Blaine. Changing the tires. You got fuel guys, you got the engineers. There's just so much that goes into getting the car ready, and making sure the car's okay during the race. So it'd be really cool to get some more insight on the other crew members and seeing how everything they do for the car and for the team. So get excited for Fontana coming up. That put on a really good race last year. Kind of bummed that they're tearing it down, dude. Like I think it's one of the best tracks on the circuit, especially for the next gen car. It's an old surface, so the pit cycles and stuff, those really play a big part. So excited for that. Larson, as we know, won last year, so really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean Kyle, one of Kyle's best tracks for sure. 2 wins there in his career in the Cup Series, 2 wins in the Xfinity Series. I know Kyle's got to kind of be going into this one like a little bittersweet feeling. It's just like it's the last time that he's probably going to be able to race on this track if the reconfiguration goes through and is finalized over the next couple of years. So I mean, I think Kyle's gonna come into this one really wanting to win it. I mean, it's one of those tracks that he's good at, and like you said, the old surface there just makes the racing so interesting. That was what always made Atlanta before they converted it last year. That was one of my favorite tracks because it was a rough surface, and there was a lot of tire wear and stuff like that played a role into. It wasn't just based on one variable that controlled who's going to be good, who's not. It's multiple different things that all play a factor into winning a race at those tracks. So really looking forward to Auto Club this week. Obviously, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. picked up the win at Daytona. He has locked up his playoff spot. If you had to pick somebody other than Kyle Larson for this week at Auto Club, who is it? Based off of just what we saw at Daytona.
I mean, honestly, based off Clash and Daytona, I think one of the biggest contenders this year has to be Kyle Busch. I mean, he's in that RCR number 8 car now. I think he's kind of having fun again. He's completely new team, new scene, new everything. I mean, dude, he's just been crazy good. I mean, even what he's done for Austin Dillon, just from Clash and Daytona, Dillon's been up front with Kyle in both races. I mean, they finished 2 and 3 at the Clash. They were up front, obviously, until they wrecked here at the 500. But I really do think RCR is a threat, specifically Kyle Busch. I think he's going to be a problem this year.
Yeah, that's who I was gonna say too is Kyle Busch. I think Kyle Busch could easily win 5 or 6 races this year. I mean, I think he's just that dangerous in this new equipment, this new setting. I think it's like a reset button for him, and I think he needed that. Like he really did need that, and I think no matter how much people hate him, he's a good driver, and I think this is going to be a perfect pairing for him and for RCR.
Yeah, I mean, just what he brings to the table as a teammate, like I said, for Austin Dillon. I mean, we could see Austin Dillon win multiple races this year. He had the one win last year at Daytona in that crash fest at the end of the year, end of the regular season race. So, I mean, we could even see Austin Dillon win a few races this year. That's just how much, Kyle Busch brings to the table. And yeah, I do think they're going to be scary. Other than them, I think Trackhouse is going to do good again this year. They're just constantly improving. They did so good last year with Chastain and Suarez. So yeah, but I'm taking RCR as the team to kind of break out for the 2023 season.
Yeah, I like that pick, and I think my kind of dark horse. That's the one that I think is a little more obvious. Like RCR, it seems like it just everything lines up. It seems like it makes sense. The one that I think is a little bit more of a dark horse is the Legacy Motor Club team. I'm representing the Jimmy Johnson '84 shirt. Good run from Jimmy on Sunday too. First race back in NASCAR, but that team under his leadership, I think Noah Gragson and Eric Jones are really going to do good this year with that team. I think that they both have a good possibility of winning a race at some point this year. Eric Jones obviously did win a race last year, but um, a lot of things look different with that team this year. Obviously, the name is different. I think that's kind of a sign of better things to come, new things to expect from that team, and it's definitely hard seeing the petty name fade out of the sport a little bit, but um, I'm biased, but I think Jimmy's gonna turn things around in that organization and really get things going in the right direction.
Yeah, we could see a similar thing with Hendrick. Obviously, they've always been the powerhouse team, but when Jeff Gordon kind of came in, they've been really stepping out of the box. We talked about it. I think it was in the Clash podcast. They're doing like Le Mans, like with Garage 56 car. Kyle's getting ready to run Indy. So these guys, these legends in the sport, like Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, they're really, kind of setting the blueprint for the future of the sport. And they have just so many connections within the sport, and they've done so much for it. So it's really cool to see the sport kind of take a leap with their leadership and what we will see moving forward.
Absolutely. So I think that's pretty much all we have for Daytona and NASCAR stuff. As far as dirt goes, Kyle did run that race at Volusia last week on Tuesday. Not going to really talk too much about that one. 13th place finish. Had to come through the B main in that one. But really, as we stand right now, no dirt stuff is expected for Kyle this week or for the next couple of weeks, really until after the West Coast swing wraps up in Phoenix. We'll probably start to see some more dirt late model stuff pop up after that. And I think the next officially confirmed race as we stand right now is in March at the Tulare Thunder Bowl for the opener of the high limit sprint car series. Really looking forward to that one. Love the racing at Tulare. It's a great track, and Kyle's good there. He won there last year, or yeah, last year at the beginning of the year. Had a good battle with Giovanni Selzi, and um, that's going to be a good race, and hopefully a good amount of cars show out to that one. But I think that's all we have for today's show. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in and listening. We really appreciate the support. Make sure to go check out our on location video from the Daytona 500. We got a lot of cool clips of our views and angles of things that we saw. So make sure you go check that out. And if you're watching this podcast on YouTube, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please don't forget to follow our podcast so you do not miss a thing. Have a great rest of the week, everyone. We will be back again next week to recap Auto Club and anything else that Kyle Larson may race in. We will see you in the next episode.